Smart Animator has been updated again. And as always, if you have purchased Smart Animator in the past, or if you purchased our Smart Tools bundle, then you definitely get this update for free. You just need to go to ukramedia.com, re-log in, re-download, and reinstall, and then you'll have it in here. So before I show you all the new updates, all the new changes, I like to show you the before and after. I want to show you the struggle that I had with text animation and how I was able to solve it with Smart Animator. So essentially, Smart Animator is a text animation tool. So let me show you the before and after. So we have 3 different text layers in After Effects. None of them are animating, just static text. But here's what I want to do. I want to animate each text layer, and I want to animate each text one word at a time, maybe coming in from like the right side, one word at a time, kind of sliding into the center, settling in and staying for like a second or so. And then I want them to animate out to the left side, one word at a time. So how can I do that quickly without using Smart Animator and only using the tools that are already in After Effects? Well, to do that, I'm gonna solo this one layer because we're gonna only work on this one. And keep in mind, I just wanna show you the amount of effort and time and clicks it takes to create something very simple. And not only that, some of the things you kind of have to know how to do ahead of time. So we have this text and we're gonna be animating one word at a time. So we're gonna bring in position, then we're gonna bring in opacity, and we're gonna set the initial position for the in, like 1000 on the X, and then opacity to 0. Then we would go to wrench selector and advanced. Again, those are the things you kind of have to know how to do ahead of time. We're gonna set it based on words because we're gonna animate each word at a time. And then shape here, you had to know to set it to ramp up. And so when it arrives, I wanted to, for each word to smoothly arrive to its position. And we're gonna adjust ease low. Basically, that's what's gonna give us that smooth arrival. And then after this, we would animate this offset value. So I'm gonna go to the beginning here, set it to -100, maybe go a second forward and set it to 100. And just like that, we have something interesting. Now, if I wanted to add maybe some blur over here, then I would go to add, and I have all these other properties that I can add to the mix since we already have it animated. So I'm gonna say blur, and we're gonna set the X to maybe like 100. So now we have blur coming in, as you can see. It's definitely nice. So that's in animation. I'm gonna call this one in. Again, you saw how many clicks it took to create this. So we're gonna duplicate this, and we'll do the out animation. So we're gonna duplicate this, and we're gonna call this one out. And we're gonna see our keyframes here, and we're gonna position it right here. We're also going to reverse our keyframes. And so now we have in animation, we have out animation. And not only that, now we have to adjust all the parameters so that it goes to the left side. So we have to, go back into here and there and click. So one too many clicks just to make minor adjustments. And it can definitely take you quite a bit of time, especially if you have more than just one layer, maybe like 50, which is in After Effects, it's not too far-fetched. So you can definitely see how much time it takes to create something simple. And not only that, the amount of effort and headache that it takes to adjust things and move things around. Like if I wanted to adjust the timing, I had to adjust this and then, move the keyframes and move them around. And you had to do that for every single one of them. Yeah, definitely not a fan. So let me show you how you can do the same thing using Smart Animator. So we're gonna get rid of what we just created. Let's go over here and get rid of all of these. We're gonna go back to square one, and we're gonna do it to all of them at the same time, to all 3 of them. So not only are we gonna animate text, but we're gonna do it to all 3 of them. So now we're back to square one, nothing's animating, which is good. So next, I'm gonna select my layers that I want to animate, text layers. And then I'm going to navigate to Smart Animator. And right here, we have the first tab, basically duration. And the way Smart Animator animates things, it does it based on in and out points of your layer. So right now it's set to 1 second, but you can set it to frames, depends on how you work. So it's set to seconds. So the whole animation, the in animation is going to take 1 second long. So it's going to start at the in point. And again, you can move this around, and it always will start at the in point. And the same thing for the out point. It's set to 1 second. So it's gonna start animating 1 second away from the out point, and you can adjust it all day long. It will always animate it at out settings, which I'll show you here in a second. So that's what this is for. I'm gonna set it to 1 second. That's totally fine. We're gonna go to position. We're gonna set the X initial one. So this is the in, like the in animation for each layer. So the in is gonna be 1000. So it's gonna come in at 1000. And then we want for it to go out 1000 right here, -1000. So we're going to copy this. We're going to set it to negative. That's good. Then we're going to go to opacity. We're going to set this to 0. And then blur, we did have blur. So we're going to set this to like 200, 100, doesn't matter. So then we just select, again, make sure you select the layers before you hit apply, and then hit apply. And just like that, they're animated. So now I can preview this. And as you can see, this slide in one by one, slide out, and perfect. As you can see, it took me hardly any time. And it was actually really fun because you can keep adjusting things. Now, the cool thing about Smart Animator, it's not a plugin, it's a script, which means that it uses all the tools that are native in After Effects. Like it uses whatever After Effects has, and then it creates things. And once it creates it, so you do have to have Smart Animator to create the animation. But once you create it, as you can see, each layer has parameters that you can adjust in the effect controls panel. Like for example, we have our position here that we can keep adjusting. So we can keep adjusting things, as you can see on the fly. We can adjust the opacity, duration, all of that jazz is in here. So in other words, once you create it, you can move them into mogurts. You can hand the project off to somebody and they're not stuck without the plugin. They actually can click on this and keep adjusting things. And not only that, we do have some options in the UI. As I mentioned in the previous video, we have all these controls that you can use in the UI, even though you don't have to have this to adjust these parameters, but they are very helpful. Like for example, if you want to delete all of them, you can just delete the entire animation like this. Boom, it will completely wipe everything out, all the expressions. So now you're back to square one. You can reapply and it will reapply them again. And you can keep adjusting things on the fly. Maybe you go over here and you say, instead of 1000, let's do 500 and let's do -500, apply, boom, and instantly we'll apply it. So for example, let's see what that looks like. As you can see, it applied it in here. Now the cool thing about this as well, you can actually take the information from this. Maybe you open up some other project that someone already altered that's not in your UI. So for example, maybe I move this to 1500 on the X for both, maybe like -1500. And as you can see, it's not updating that, but you can easily select this layer and you can pull in the information for the in and out. Now, another thing to point out that I mentioned before, we have global and local properties. So global meaning it's going to pull in value for all of these properties, meaning like the scale, rotation, opacity. It's going to pull in all of these into this globally. Now, if you set it to locally, then it will only pull in whatever property that you're currently in. So right now we're in position. So if I hit pull, if I select this and pull this in, as you can see, it pulled in only position. And so that's what global and local means. At any point you can swap things, you can swap things back and forth. So we're gonna set it locally. We're gonna pull in and pull in out. I can set it globally and pull in the same values. Now it's going to pull in all of them. So these buttons are very, very helpful. You can reset things on the fly. You can push it back and forth. So that and this work really well together. And I wanted to make sure that they do because that's how I work. I'd like to just pull in one layer, make adjustments, send it back. And if someone makes adjustments, I can take that, pull it back in. So that's essentially Smart Animator in a nutshell. Now, I have added some new things. As you can see at the top here, we have presets. We also have some new tabs that you're probably not aware of just yet. So let me kind of quickly go over them. So at the top, as I mentioned, those are presets. And the 0, it's not really, it's more of a default value. So 0, whatever you set 0 on, that's what you're going to see when you first open the tool or when you reset your values. So for example, right now 0, if I reset, maybe I have some values in here. If I hit reset for the position, that's because this default value is set to reset. So I can maybe set my default value to something else. Maybe I want my position to be 500 every time I bring this in. And to set this default value, I just make the adjustments to all of them, whatever they are. And then it's simple. I just select the default 0. And you can hover over them. It tells you what they are. So default is the default value. I can say, hey, take all of these like information in all of these tabs and pull or push them into this preset or default value by pushing on this set preset. Boom. When you do that, it's going to set it instantly. So now if I reset this to 0, because it is the default value, it's also the reset value because reset value is the default value. So now when I hit reset, you can see it will reset it to whatever we set it to. But if at any point, if you want to go back to the default value that it was previously when you first opened, then you can just reset it. And now if I hit reset, it goes back to 0. So this sets, resets, and now in pulls. So I also have this these 9 preset text animation presets, and I'll show them in here. So here they are. Let me kind of preview them for you. So number 1 kind of slides in, slides out. Preset 2 kind of slides in from the top, goes back down. Then we have preset 3, 1 letter at a time. And 4 is more of a matrix type effect. And then we have 5, which is like a scales in on the X. 6 is more of a matrix effect. And then the blur effect is 7. And we have 8 is a blur effect, but it's more of a horizontal effect. And then 9 is more of a type effect. So it kind of types things in. So those are the presets that are attached to each value. Now, I did them for you just like a default value, that if you want to quickly create some kind of text animation, you have them in here, but you can make your own presets, set them to any value you want. So for example, let me show you how quickly we can use these presets. So right now we have this text animation. I'm going to delete all of them. And I'm going to say, hey, we're going to use preset 1. And we're going to pull it in. So select the preset, pull it in. It's going to pull it in into your UI. And then you just run it. And just like that, we have preset 1. So it's the same one what we had before. It kind of pulls in one by one. Then we can say, hey, preset 2, let's pull you in. Let's run you, see what you do. And as you can see, it slides in. So instantly you can get like very interesting text animation. Then 3, let's pull that in. So you get the idea. It does it like this. And let's do something like 4. Well, you want to make sure you pull it in, then run it. And anyway, it's got a matrix effect. Let's do 6, or let's do 5. Again, make sure you pull it in, 5. And yeah, there you go. Now, as I mentioned before, the animation to adjust it, maybe you want to make this layer longer. So you can pull it in, and it does it based on out and in points. So you can, as you can see, it will only animate at the out point. So you can kind of quickly adjust things on the fly however you like. So yeah, I definitely like working this way. That's why I created this tool, because to me, it makes sense. You can quickly set your stuff, set them as keyframes or as presets. And then I think presets will come in handy for maybe when you open up a project. So for example, maybe you like this text animation and you opened up this UI and everything is reset to default, and you're like, oh man, I want to pull this animation in and then use it in another project. Well, you can do that instantly by selecting the layer. You can pull it in globally for in and out. And let me delete this effect, apply it. As you can see, there's that effect. So you can go to other projects, other compositions, and I have this preset, but I can set it to like 9. I can say, hey, this thing I just pulled, you're gonna be 9. And this layer right here, let me delete this. I want you to be preset 9, pull it in, run it, and now it's preset 9. Now I can reset preset 9 to default value, and then let's pull that in. Let's see what that was. I think it was a typing effect. So as you can see, it types it in. So that's what it's for. I hope I'm not over explaining. I just want to make sure you get this. But so that's presets. Then we also have new tabs in here. Let me quickly go over those. So the first one right here is duration. We talked about that. Then we have based, or I think this one is, range selector. So for example, let me reset everything globally to default 0. And let's do like a simple opacity animation. We're going to do it based on characters. Let's run this. Let's see what that looks like. Make sure we run all of them. So we have this kind of fade. And notice it does fade starting at the beginning of like this, I guess the entire layer here and there. That's the range. That's the in and that's the out. Basically 0, 100%. And it does fade in all the way through there, as you can see. Now, sometimes you want to affect that range. Maybe you want to only be fading happening at a small percentage. So I can go over here to range and I say, hey, don't do between 0 and 100. Maybe we're going to start at 75 and 100. So that's what it does. You can set it to like 75, apply this, and now you can see that it's only doing it to the edge. I mean, this comes in very handy for things like this character offset. So maybe like 10 and 10. So we can set this. As you can see, you'll have that matrix effect, but it only does it to the edge instead of to the entire text. So if you set this range to the entire text, you can see it does it to all of it. And maybe sometimes you don't want that. So maybe you want to limit it to maybe 80%, like starting at 80 to 100. And again, the entire length is 100%. So 0, 100, if you want to be like 50, you'd enter 50. And that's how it works basically. So that's what this range selector is. You can have start, end, and it's both for in and out. Then we have this order that does it based on left and right. That's pretty simple. But then we have random effects. So maybe maybe we do this. Let's reset everything again. And we're gonna go to opacity 0, 0, and let's do characters. We're gonna run it. So as you can see, it fades in like this. Maybe I want it to fade in randomly. And then I can go to random and I can activate this, run it, boom, and it's gonna do it randomly now, fade in randomly. You can also adjust position. You can go to position and say, let's give it like a 100% or 100 pixel position animation, run it. So now it's not only gonna have opacity, but slight position random. And yeah, you get the idea. So you definitely have all this control. That's what this random is for. And sometimes you want to give a different seat, so you can give it a different seat so it's different from the out. So that's where you would do it. And if you run it, you can see it's different seat. So that's random. Then you have based on, and you can do based on characters, words, lines. Maybe you want to do the words at the beginning, but maybe characters as it animates out, and you can do that. So as you can see, it does it based on characters or words at the beginning. That's what it's set for. And then when it animates out, it does it based on characters. All right, so that's what it's for. Then we have easing. We talked about easing, ease low, ease high, when things arrive, each letter or each word as it arrives. That's for the in. When it arrives, the end, that's where you would adjust 100%. So now it's very smooth because easing set to 100%. But if you want for it to leave at maybe smooth, but then arrive rigid, so that's where we would adjust this in here. So as you can see, it's gonna be smooth at first, but then very rigid. And it kind of snappy, maybe that's what you're going for. Maybe sometimes you want it to have a little smoothness as it arrives. So it's gonna be very snappy. Yeah, so I mean, sometimes you're going for something like this, that's where you would adjust easing. And the same thing for out, as it leaves, when it first starts leaving, that's the starting point. Maybe you wanna have ease, but then snappy when it is gone at the end. So that's what that's for, that's ease. And then we have anchor point, position, those are pretty simple. We have scale, rotation, opacity, we have skew. You can play around with those. Let me reset all of these kind of quickly. So skew, let's just show you that real quick. So as you can see, you can animate skew with combination with a lot of different things. That's what it's for. Then we have stroke. So stroke is something new that I've added. So opacity, by the way, opacity has, before it was just opacity to everything, stroke and fill, but now I separated, I have everything, but I also have fill only, stroke only, and for this kind of reason. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Maybe set this to something like bold, and we're gonna do stroke. So let's do like maybe 4 pixel stroke. So maybe I wanted to animate, make sure I'm gonna delete the animation we just created. So right now we don't have any animation, we just have this kind of text, but maybe I wanted to only animate stroke. So I'm gonna go to stroke here. I'm gonna set it, so right now it's set to 4. So I'm gonna set the initial -4, so it starts from 0, right? And so if I run this, make sure you select the layers. If I run this, you can see that it's animating the stroke, but our fill needs to be adjusted. So I also don't want the fill to be there. So boom, fill, there you go. So now it's gonna animate, as you can see, only stroke, and you can make it longer, however you want to. So that's why I've added, so you can create some interesting stuff with only stroke. And for some things, it might come in handy, especially if you were, do it based on characters. That might come in, give you an interesting effect. And maybe even, let's do random, make sure random is on. I like how easy it is. You can create like complex animation with text with just this tool. It makes sense. You can combine layers, you can do all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so that's how you do it. So we have stroke, that's something new I've added. And also this character, and this is based on just offsetting your characters, and I'm sure you'll figure this out. Let me reset everything globally. So for example, if I set this to 10 and that one to 10, I can offset the characters. Again, make sure you select the layers and run it. So now it's just gonna kind of offset the layers. I want to make sure that I'm gonna go back to, yeah, there you go. I don't want any strokes. So we have this basically weird animation, just characters. You can do more stuff with it. You can combine them with a lot of different things. Maybe let's go to fill or the opacity. So combination with opacity, you can kind of create interesting stuff. Anyway, the sky's the limit. You can animate position, maybe like 300 and -300. You can play around, create your own type animation. So we have that kind of effect. Anyway, can be cool. So that's what the character for. You can play with all these settings. And then we have tracking. That's something new that I've added that a lot of you have been asking, so you can animate tracking as well. And then blur, we talked about this as well. So that's essentially it. I know it's a bit of a long video. I just want to show you all the new things that I've added. And I don't know about you, but Text Animator or a Smart Animator is a tool that will speed up your workflow. It definitely give you more time as far as design goes. You can actually quickly see exactly what you're thinking. You can play it out and see what they do. And then you can pull things back and forth. I definitely think it's a no-brainer. This tool saved me so much time, and I can be more creative because I can quickly try things out, and that's very important. So again, I want to thank you for supporting us, for getting our tools, and as always, if you have purchased Smart Animator or our Smart Tools bundle, then you definitely get this for free. You just need to re-log into ukramedia.com, re-download, and reinstall. And again, thank you for your support. We wouldn't be able to do what we do here at Ukramedia if it wasn't for people like you. So thank you. But in the meantime, my name is Sergey Prakhnevsky, and this is ukramedia.com.